Okay, on this video, we're going to continue with a couple more examples of sealed bids. So this is example 2. I am on page 22 of the notes. So we have 5 heirs. To keep it simple, we're just going to call them A, B, C, D, and E. And they're dividing an estate consisting of 6 items. Again, to keep it simple, we're just going to number the items 1 through 6. So we want to use the method of sealed bids. All right, so first thing we're going to do is fill out the table. So we'll take player A, we'll add up all of their bids, and if we add them all together, we do get 2,970. All right, so for player B, if you add all those together, you get 2,910. Player C, you get 3,080. Player D is 3,025. And finally, player E, theirs comes out 2,965. All right, so remember we do have 5 players. We have 5 people. So you always look at the number of people, not the number of items. So we know that we are going to divide by 5. So let me switch colors here. So I'm going to go through here, and all of these I'm going to divide by 5. So the common mistake is to divide by the number of items. You always want to divide by the number of players. All right, so we end up with 594 as a fair share for A. B, the fair share is 582. For C, it is 616. D is 605. And finally, E is 593. All right, so now we're going to go through and we're going to figure out who gets which item. So remember, here we're looking across the rows. So here's item 1. So we're going to look across and we're going to find the highest bid. The highest number I'm seeing is 400. So that item will go to player C. Let's see. Item 2 looks like E has the highest bid. Item 3, looking across that row, C has the highest bid. Let's see. For item 4, let's see, 850. For item 5, 510. And item 6, let's see, 760. All right, so I'm going to double check, make sure I got the highest bid on each one. All right, so we can see who gets which item. And notice on this one, we have 3 players that got a couple of items, and then B and D didn't get any. All right, so now we start looking down at the columns, and we're going to do our first settlement. So we know that player A gets items 5 and 6. All right, now we also have to finish out their money. So remember, for the money, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do fair share minus item. All right, so for player A, their fair share is 594. And I'm going to subtract their 2 items, which is 510 and 760. This is definitely going to come out negative. It comes out negative 676. So remember, if it comes out negative, that means that they pay. Okay, so negative means pay, positive means get. So basically, she got more than her fair share with her 2 items, so she is going to pay the difference. So she's going to pay $676. All right, so if we go down to player B, we can see nothing highlighted. So I'm just going to go ahead and write no items. So when we calculate theirs, it's just going to be their fair share, which is 582, minus nothing because there's no item. So basically, they just get paid, they get their fair share. So since it's a positive, we're going to say that they get $582. All right, my cats are on a tear today, so if you start hearing things, I've got one on the floor, I've got one on the desk, so we'll see what happens. All right, so moving on to player C. Player C gets items 1 and 3. All right, so let's see. Their fair share was 616. We're going to subtract off an item worth 400 and an item worth 520. So that's going to end up in the negative. It ends up negative 304. Could you stop chewing on that? Thank you. All right, that is negative, so they are going to pay $304. All right, so player D, they don't have anything highlighted in their column, so they get no items. Their fair share is 605 minus nothing for their items, so they're just going to get their fair share. They are going to get 605. All right, finally our last player, player E, they are going to get items 2 and let's see, is that 4? So items 2 and 4. Their fair share was 593. They got an item worth 110 and an item worth 850. So it looks like they're going to be in the negative. And that comes out negative 367. So they are going to pay 367. All right, so now we're going to move on to the surplus. So remember, the surplus is going to be the pays minus the gets. All right, so I'm going to underline here. So I'm going to underline all the pays in red. And then I'll underline all the gets in green. That makes it a little bit easier. So what I do is I add up all the pays first. So I'm going to add up the 676, the 304, and the 367. And that comes out 1,347. And then I add up the gets, the 582 and the 605, and that comes out 1187. So I usually get those sums, and then if I just subtract those, it does come out to be a surplus of 160. Now remember, the surplus does get divided, and I do have 5 players, so I'm going to divide that by 5. So that's going to be $32 per player. All right, so now I'm ready to do my final settlement. All right, so player A still gets items 5 and 6. All right, so remember for this, I am going to take their negative number and I'm going to bring it down and put it right here. All right, so negative 676, and then I'm going to add in the surplus. So everybody gets an extra $32. So his is still negative, it's just not as negative. So now he's going to pay $644. All right, so this is what you would do at the end. So this middle part isn't what would really happen. They would calculate this, and then when you get down to part D, that's what each person would actually pay. All right, so B gets no items. Remember, they were getting 582, so they're just going to get an extra $32 tacked onto that, and they're going to get 614. So they're going to get 614. All right, player C gets items 1 and 3. Now remember, they were paying, so we need to take that negative number and we need to pull it down right here. So negative 304 plus 32. So I think of that as them paying $304 and then someone gives them $32 back. So they end up losing or paying out $272. So pay $272. All right, almost done. D gets no items. They were getting 605. They're going to get an additional 32. And that's going to end up with them getting $637. And then finally, our last person, they get items 2 and 4. Now remember, they were negative, so we got to take that negative number and pull it down right here. So negative 367 plus 32, and that comes out negative 335. So they are going to pay $335. All right, so for a check, I have a little bit of room here. Remember, for the check, let me change colors. The pays should equal the gets. So if I add up all the pays, they're right here. That would be 644, 272, and 335. And then I want to do all of the gets. That would be 614 plus 637. So if I just check that sum, I should get 1251 and 1251. So if that balances out, then you know you did that problem correctly. All right, so that one was kind of a long problem. Now we're going to do one that's a little bit shorter, but it can be a little bit confusing. So this is on page 23. All right, so for example 3, we have 3 partners. Tim, Bob, and Deb own a donut shop. They decide to break up the partnership using the method of sealed bids, with the understanding that one of them will get the donut shop and the other 2 will get cash. So we have everybody's bids, and so we want to kind of figure out who gets the business and what are we paying. So this one's a little weird because we don't have anything to add up. Everything's already added up. So we're going to go straight to the fair share. There are 3 players. All right, so we're going to take these sums and we're going to divide by 3. All right, so they're not really sums because there was only one item to give away. All right, so we end up with 55,000, 64,000, and 61,000. Now, the only item we're giving away, that should say donut shop. That is a typo from last semester. I don't know how the donut shop became a flower shop, but there it is. All right, so we're going to give away, not give away, but the highest bidder is going to get the donut shop. So it looks like that's going to be Bob. So Bob is going to get the donut shop. Now Tim and Deb are going to get, just like before, it's fair share minus item. Now they didn't get an item, so their fair share for Tim would just be 55,000 minus 0, so he would get 55,000. Now for Bob, his fair share is 64,000, but he got a donut shop that he valued at 192,000, and so that comes out negative 128,000. So he's going to pay 128,000. And then Deb didn't get an item, so it's just fair share minus 0. So Deb gets the fair share of 61,000. All right, so from here on down, everything's pretty much the same. The surplus is going to be just like before, pays minus gets. So they paid in 128,000, right, from Bob. And then if we just go ahead and add these 2 together, that comes out to be 116,000. So I like to add them together and then do my subtraction. So that comes out 12,000 for our surplus. And remember, that gets divided among all of the players. So there's 3 players. So that comes out 4,000 each. All right, so this is a little different. They only ask for how much Tim and Deb get for their share of the flower shop. So for Tim, he was getting the 55,000 from the first settlement plus an extra 4,000. So he gets 59,000. Now if we skip down to Deb, she was getting 61,000 plus the 4,000 from the surplus, so she gets 65,000. Now what it doesn't ask is, it doesn't ask how much Bob pays for the flower shop. If you want to include that, you can. So Bob, not the flower shop, the donut shop. See, now I messed up too. All right, he's going to get the donut shop. Oh, it says flower. Donut. Okay. So he gets the donut shop. And he's going to pay for that. So remember, originally he was paying 128. So here's where we grab that negative number and bring it down. So negative 128 plus 4,000. And that ends up being negative 124,000. So he pays 124,000. It didn't actually ask for this, so we don't have to include it. But we can check, if we add up 59,000 and 65,000, it's going to add up to be the 124,000. So that way you can still do the check on that one. All right, and that is how we do the basic sealed bids. On the next video, we're going to look at reverse auctions.